Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Wednesday evening with the Shower Door Professionals. We are streaming live and having a good time, having a good time. Oh, man, were you here last week? If you weren't here last week, you missed a good one. Craig Bond was here. That was a good call. Talked about, what's going on in marketing, especially as it has to do with, having a good website and a good reputation and kind of walked us through the building blocks of how to get started, a good foundation to build on. It was good. If you missed it, it's okay because you can catch the video on YouTube and also it's on the podcast, so you can listen to it. You can listen while you work. It's awesome. So that was great. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some. Well, actually, I had a viewer and YouTube make a suggestion. I love it when people do that. It's really cool. So I encourage it. If you have a topic that you'd like the shower door professionals to discuss, let us know what it is, and we'll get it on the agenda and we'll chat about it. So this is what they said. They said, can we do a discussion on what glass companies are looking for in a fabrication company? This person is interested in the opinions and recommendations of glass companies and how they go about selecting fabricators. I thought, man, that's a great topic. I don't think we've ever had that discussion specifically. What do you look for in a glass fabricator? What are your favorite things about your particular glass fabrication company? What are some things that they could do better? We have glass fabricators and amongst us who are probably really interested in hearing you know some feedback about this, I'll bet. So great topic. Thanks for the suggestion. I'll tag you in the post to say thanks for the suggestion. Um, yeah, this is great. I think, to start a good fabricator, number one, I think, is just like any good business person, that, makes you feel like your business is important. So for me, that always has gone a long way. When I have a choice between, two or three different companies I can order glass from. Um, there are a lot of important things, but one of the most important things is like, if I ask for a quote that I get it back quickly, if they're responsive, or when I place an order, like I get a response, saying, yeah, we've got your order, like maybe the same day or something. I mean, stuff like that for me is just huge. And like I say, that's something that would apply really to any company, right? Anybody that you want to do business with. But that's going to be my little contribution just to get things started. But
I
I'm
agree.
yeah, Brad.
Hey, yeah, I'll put in my 2 cents and then I'll probably shut up for the rest of the night. But we're in that process of choosing glass fabricators right now. And we've used Old Castle forever.
Mhm.
They've been really dropping the ball.
Cool.
And the number one reason that we are looking elsewhere is because the quality of the product has
Mm.
been suffering. And we've given them months and months of of opportunity to correct it.
Mulligans,
And what's that?
mulligans.
Yes, that's right. And so we even went down to their plant. We had a meeting with them. It was a really good meeting. We had the production people, we had the vice president, we had everybody there, and They kept saying how, they're on top of everything, and that if there's any problems, they'll take care of it. Just let them know what the problems are. And I tell you what, I hand it to Oldcastle. They did a lot of things that we requested, like they would take back defective glass panels because we were throwing them away in our dumpster. It was taking time. We'd have stacks of glass that would build up, and we were getting tired of that. And we asked them if they would get their drivers to take the glass back, and they did, and they do. But we got to the point where we were refusing about 20 to 25% of all the glass constantly, and they can't make a living. And we're feeling, if they're having to remake that much percentage wise, and I feel guilty to refuse the glass. But there's what's called heat pitting. They have these little pock marks on the surface of the glass. So that is one of the problems. And that's been the biggest problem is the tempering. But on occasion, there's other stuff. Obviously, you get your chips, the scratches, your bowing, all that. So their service has been excellent, other than the quality of the product. So we are looking for quality product and hopefully good service. So that's where we're at. We have the luxury, though, of a lot of new people coming into our market. And so we have probably easily half dozen fabricators. And 3 of them came in with really good pricing. Mm-hmm. And Oldcastle is the highest. So it's making it easy for us. We're going to still do some business with Oldcastle. They turn our glass in 3 days. Actually 4. The 4th day is delivery. And they've been consistent doing that. So that's, turnaround is becoming more and more of a precedence for doing business. And so that's also another thing. How quick can you get the glass? Mm-hmm. There's a problem. How fast can they remake the glass?
Right.
So that's where we're at. So
yeah. I mean, no matter how good the service is, and no matter how friendly they are, if like the product isn't right, I mean, you just can't. It's got to be right, right? So
yeah,
that's one of the biggest challenges we face in our market. We're in a smaller market. I have limited choices on fabricators, and most of them deliver just 1 day a week. And so if you order and it comes in incorrectly, you're waiting another week, and you got a customer who's wanting to know where the heck their enclosure is. We struggle with that, and despite meetings and having vendors come down and look at the product, that's the biggest source of frustration I have. And we're not fabricators, so we don't control any of that, and it puts you in a pickle, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One thing I think is kind of interesting. So we use Oldcastle too, and we're not very far away from Brad, but it takes us about 6 to 7 days to get glass turned around. But they deliver to us every day. They deliver to us every day, but the process takes about 6 to 7 days for us to get glass. So I wonder what goes into that. Like if a fabricator could speak to that, like why does it take one company to get it X amount of days versus another that you're delivering to every, like what's behind that? I don't know. It's weird, interesting.
And then, they extended that, Daniel, when we went to that meeting, and they were really wanting to. They knew that we were not happy with things, and then that was one of the things that they told us, because we were giving them so much business, that they were going to give us that. I don't know what they call it, but a priority service.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not happy with their glass. I mean, it might be good for new construction because the homeowners are looking at more than just shower doors when they're going into their new home. They're looking at trim and paint and kitchens and all that stuff, flooring, and the shower's not quite the focus. Heat pitting can, be noticed, but it's one of those things like we did a job today as a homeowner, and I mean that's all this lady's focused in on is her shower door. So any imperfections becomes a real problem.
Yeah. I wonder what, like, we deal with mainly large manufacturers. Like, what goes into a smaller manufacturer that's trying to get business, like, how the heck do they stay competitive? And like, like, are those your other options, like, that you would be choosing from right now? You know, like, who the heck is out there?
I know Shannon fabricates, but it's like I don't think they fabricate for customers. They're just doing their own fabrication. Isn't that right, Shannon?
Yeah, we only fabricate for ourselves. So around us, the other fabricators are big fabricators.
Mhm.
And that was part of it too, is that a lot of fabricators are doing commercial and they're maybe doing high-rise buildings and all of that. And so our little shower doors are like nothing to them.
Mhm.
The whole 80/20 rule, and they always tell you in business to that 80% of your customers wait how anyway, you got to get rid of the losers. And I think when it comes to most fabricators, shower guys are the losers because there we are with these piddly little orders and we're looking at it up close, and
Yep.
they can go and they can do 100 windows or 100 high-rise building, um, whatever, and no one says anything.
Mhm.
You got this little stupid panel that someone's sending back over and over and over again. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're not the best customers out there. And kind of that realization was what made me go, no one's ever gonna really care about me unless it's a fabricator that like goes after only shower doors. And I think there's some of them out there.
Mhm.
But Old Castle, we're nothing. We are nothing.
Bug on the
Well,
windshield.
talking
Yeah.
about Old Castle here in Florida, Old Castle in Tampa actually closed. So they started, accepting orders from everybody. Then they said we do not longer fabricate glass, so we're only gonna be doing like straight glass, and then they just close. Um, But I would say for sure, if you guys are sending DXF files rather than just, cut sheets and then have the fabricator do your deductions, if you send your DX files, you're at least gonna gain a day because the DX file is just gonna transfer to most CNC machines. But if you only send your measurements and then the fabricator needs to do all the takeoffs, that's gonna take a little bit more time.
Do you fabricate for other people, Elabon?
Well, it's funny, but we have I would say 95% of our business right now is only our company, but we have been asked. We get more and more requests from glass companies because we actually have the largest tempering oven in the area,
Mhm.
and we
Mhm.
actually have some tempering companies that send us their glass to get tempered. So they say like we are fabricating the glass that the other tempering facilities cannot do. We have more selections and things like that. So we do very little, but we do some.
Well, early on, when everybody kept screwing up our orders, the first problem that we decided to tackle was when they would send brushed nickel and we needed chrome. They'd send over, who knows what, wrong hinges, wrong color, wrong whatever. And so we started stocking our own hardware and saying, just forget it, just send us the glass. And then when they were making the glass wrong, we're like, well, what else can we do about this? And we started asking to review the files. So we would send over the measurements and then they would put it into their showers online or whatever. And we'd ask them to send it back so that we could verify that they had all the right things entered. And then we thought that we'd be saving something by getting showers online ourselves and putting it in and sending them the DXF file. We were sending it to them and we were still getting like data entry type errors, and we're going, what, how is this even possible? We sent you the files. It said, oh, we don't use those files. No, we just enter it ourselves.
Oh,
What? What? So we couldn't get anywhere there, but we just kept on, trying to do as much as we could ourselves. Like Elivan said, if you can do the data entry, then that's one less thing for them to screw up.
yeah. Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, if you do have the ability to send the DX files yourself, that's a no-brainer. You should definitely be doing that because then that just takes one more human out of the equation, you know?
And again, or review their work. So
Yeah.
if they're showing you what the deductions are that they're taking, because we always wanted tighter deductions. We always wanted, an eighth at the strike side and 3/16 instead of a quarter at the hinge, and things like that. And they were constantly doing the wrong one. We like to use Vienna hinges. So many people do Geneva. We'd get glass in it, had a Geneva cutout instead of a Vienna, and yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Brad, you said that you're getting the glass with a lot of like specs on the glass.
Yeah, one of the guys who works for us used to be a employee of Oldcastle, and so he knows a lot about the machines and a lot of stuff. And he I would never know that that was called heat pitting, but it has, he said that's heat pitting. And then there's other things that he sees that he knows what the problems are. But yeah, it's like little speckles in the surface.
Mhm.
Yeah, most likely what is happening, they're breaking glass
Cleaning.
in their quench, and then the glass that is there is pretty much just passing, cleaning those little specks so that gets into the glass. So typically, if
Sure.
a glass piece breaks, you gotta clean those rollers, put some glass, let's say like test pieces to pick up all of those imperfections, and then the glass comes right. So probably they're having problems. With their fabrication where the glass is just breaking, and they're not taking the
Hmm.
time to clean or do anything because they have so much volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on a high rise, that's no big deal. I mean, when I was working on high rises, I mean, a piece of glass had to be pretty bad before you didn't install it. You think, man, you're up on the 22nd floor. I mean, no one's gonna
To
ever.
look through, not at, is
Yeah, it's great, you know. And if that's the bulk of what you're doing is that kind of glass, it's like Shannon says, then it comes your shower door. It's like, oh no, here's these shower door people. I mean, they want this little piece of glass, and they want it to be perfect
yeah.
because their customer is going to be looking at it from like 2 feet away every morning of their entire life, you know. I mean, it has to be right, you know. I feel bad for them too. Like Brad was saying, it's like, man, I start to feel guilty, you're rejecting so much glass, but what can you do? You've got to. It's got to be right.
No, we use glass fab over here in Tracy,
Yeah.
and I don't use shower doors online. I have all my own templates I draw up, and they get a full-size template of what I want. And every template order has the hinge cutouts, the clip cutouts. And when I get that back, that is taped to the glass so they know, that's what I ordered.
Well, you're doing that on like stone tablets, right?
No, I do it on an Excel
Okay.
spreadsheet. I have a system set up where I can enter it in and prints it out, and the way it goes. Yeah, right.
No, I've seen your templates. They're sweet, man. They're
Yeah,
like really
I,
clean.
I figured that out long before showers online, came along.
That's exactly how I used to do it. I just have like, you draw something and then you just save it.
Yeah.
because you know you're going to
Well,
have the exact
I
same.
got good at Excel where I can do a template on Excel. And I have the door over here, and I have a worksheet over here, and I enter it in that worksheet and it transfers it on the door.
Nice.
And what's good about them, they'll call me and go, "Oh, you left off a number." So I have good rapport with them over there.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
and like I say, in the industry, they call it hiccups. They have.
And they love it because it's a super easy thing to read, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I measure everything from the top down, and I'll put a plumb line at the door, measure both ways, and they can take a rocket scientist to read it.
Nice.
And I've been using them forever. Then the other day I got a call from Oldcastle from Darren. His name Darren. And he said they were trying to straighten their act out.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that.
I
I
says,
like those guys, I mean,
oh, I like him. I said, just
you
send me
know,
a sheet.
everybody goes through their seasons, right? Of like struggling and
Yeah.
there's changes or whatever. And I get
And we
it.
got to talking. He's worked for everybody, in the industry. And I said, yeah, just give me a price sheet. And if it's good, I'll order it. I don't call up and get quotes. I just want a price sheet.
Right. If you know the price, you don't need a quote, right?
No,
You can figure
I
it out
figure all
yourself.
that out real simple. And I've done that for years with him. I'd even send him a blank, fill in the blanks.
Mhm.
And that was probably pulling nails on it. So,
Yeah.
and glass fab, I ordered one on Monday and it'll be here tomorrow. 2 panels of for my phantom shower.
That's nice.
So,
Yeah. So, if you're just joining us, we're talking about glass fabricators. What do you look for in a good glass fabrication company? What are your favorite things that they do for you? What are the things that make you pull your hair out, if you've got any?
well, and plus I have a good driver. He has
That that
he
counts.
has he has a code to my shop to get in. He'll come and open the door, stack it against the wall, and put a rope against it. You know, that's the best part. Don't
Good
have
delivery people is that's huge.
yeah. He's carrying stuff I won't even think about carrying.
You know? Yeah, that's good.
Let me ask you something, guys. So let's say that I was, and I'm gonna use Brad example. Let's say that I was in your area, Brad, and I sell shower doors in your area, and you know me, and you know that I sell the shower doors, but you know that I have really good quality. Would you buy glass from me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yes.
you would not see me as competition. You would see me as a friend that you can, that we could cooperate with each other, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, we'd have to go through all see what everything is and see how it all compares. But yeah, I do business with you.
I would say you have to start off softly too on something like that because we have a company who, for the longest time, we considered them competition. But there's a company called Eccles around like literally 5 doors down from us, and they install for the longest time, but then they got a long time ago they got into production of glass too, and they wholesale too. So like a couple of years ago. I decided to kind of open the door up and have an ally and not a competitor next door to me. Um, but just to ease into it, like it was like minimal thing. It's just to get the door open, like small decorative glass orders and just simple things and stuff to start off and like one-off IG units and things like that. And then so now we've progressively gotten into like all of our pattern glass. So any like if we're supplying glass for a handrail job or something like that, they've gotten the most competitive pricing as far as like charging for templates and things like that in comparison to the other companies. Like, and what drove us there was Oldcastle stopped accepting patterns. So like we couldn't have like somebody that's buying glass for a handrail from us bring us patterns and they wouldn't accept the patterns anymore. Like we couldn't make physical patterns and they wouldn't pick them up anymore. So we had to source it elsewhere. And out of the companies that are available. You know, we have Trulight and AI, or same thing now, but we used to use AIG, and they're not as competitive on the pattern charge. So I was like, well, why don't we just use these people? We can literally drop the templates off on the way out, and their pricing was actually better, you know. So that I would say yes, we would buy from somebody like that, but it would definitely start off slow. The bulk of our stuff is from Oldcastle still. Like, we're not just going to completely shift gears, you know. And we want multiple sources, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Well, I
ordered
used to do,
I ordered
yeah.
once from Oldcastle and Trulight, and what surprises me about them is that they don't wrap their glass, right? So
Yeah.
I use quite a few different fabricators, and I can't stand the ones who don't wrap their glass, because the ones who don't, I have more and more trouble with than ones who actually do saran wrap them.
Huh. You don't wrap them out here.
The only company I've ever known to wrap glass was HMI.
Coral wraps it too.
Yeah, Coral, HMI, 310, they all wrap, and they
Oh,
put
310
plastic.
does? That's
Yeah,
cool.
they put plastic on the edges of all the glass in addition to wrapping. So I mean, I can't speak more highly of the quality of glass that I get now versus like OBE or Trulight, which I've had problems with.
Back when,
Back and forth on
back
that
when,
whole wrapping issue. And you know, and I think the perception initially for me was, oh, it's really good. They've signed that it's good quality and whatnot. But we inspect every piece of glass prior to going out to an install. And what we found is, you know, there's a considerable amount of time to unwrap that glass and then check it out. And then you know, you want to wrap it back up, I guess. I've just gone back and forth. It seems to be less time involved if they bring it with minimal protection, just on the corners, for instance. You can grab that, and oftentimes we find blemishes coming off of the truck. So, you know, I still, I guess I go back, waffle on this. I go back and forth about, is it better to be wrapped or unwrapped? Because even when they sign off and say it's been looked at and it's good, we find crap in it. And so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think I don't inspect the glass anymore. I used to do that, especially when I was getting it from other fabricators. I show up at the job and it's still wrapped. I cut it off at the job site. Of course, everyone's gonna be like, oh, well, then you know, what if you get to the job site and there's a problem? I mean, that has happened, of course.
Mhm.
But for me, you know, it just my nine times out of 10, my glass is in great condition.
That's great. I'm
they
happy
give
to
you-
hear that.
Do they give you a time limit?
Do they give me a what?
When you get your glass, do they give you a time limit to say it's no good, or?
I haven't ever come into this. So, you know, that's funny. The only one I ever get that time limit from is Trulight. But HMI never gives me a time limit. Coral never gives me a time limit. So I'll get glass, and sometimes I won't get to installing it 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And if there's an issue, I'll send in an email and they'll replace it like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
With glass fab, you have 48 hours to.
Yep, that's right.
For who? Who's 48 hours?
A company we use called Glass Fab.
Out of where? In Atlanta?
No, they're in Tracy, California.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it's a local fabricator in our area out here.
He's local, but he's opening up in Houston, Colorado,
Oh, is that right?
and he's shipping to Washington right now too. So
Oh, cool. Yeah, they started right up here in Northern California.
yeah.
I mean, I just don't see how that's vendor friendly, but
yeah. I mean, they go through a lot of glass, so.
yeah.
well, and when we were looking at different fabricators, we wanted a fabricator that wrapped their glass too. And it was the same thing. If they have good quality and they wrap it, then you don't even have to look at it. It's like the odds of there being a problem are so low that you're okay with it. As we got more and more problems, then we're opening it up and we're having to deal with that whole wrap thing. The old castle up here near us said, we don't like to wrap the glass because it actually causes a lot of scratching. going, what? What do you mean? We did a tour of their factory, and their glass was so dirty and disgusting in their factory
Well,
that I
haven't you
could
heard
see what
tempering
they're
glass?
talking about.
Haven't you heard the old tempered glass is a lot softer? You ever get that? And a little
No.
scratch.
Softer, huh? That's
I've heard
weird.
that from,
Huh.
window washers that scratch the crap out of glass.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by GlassGadget.com. Showcase Innovations creates tools that help shower door installers be more efficient and save time. Check out GlassGadget.com for more information. Yeah, well, with window washers, it's that same thing that Ellieman was talking about. It's that fabrication debris. The like, there's, it gets baked into the glass, and they use a razor blade to clean, and they hit
Once
a
you
piece
nick
of
it,
that debris, and it just like scratches. So it's like, yeah, I mean, glass needs to be really clean when they're
we,
doing.
we had a job once where there was a lot of Fleetwood sliding glass doors and stuff. And the window washer came out there and he had back then it was a Walkman on
Yeah.
and sprayed it and it had a razor blade going back and forth. And my guy told him, "You got to scratch it." And he told him to mind his own goddamn business. And sure enough, it was all scratched.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Wow.
great one piece of glass right there. But yeah, I mean, you can inspect your glass and then go out and get it out to the job and find out that it's wrong anyway,
Sure.
you know. And because there are so many things like, you can have a hinge cutout that's like too shallow or
Yeah.
the wrong cutout to Geneva instead of a Vienna, and it's like so I mean I've had that same experience like Shawley's talking about where it's just like it comes wrapped like from HMI or something and just load it up and take it out and um, just go for it, and most of the time, like say, I mean, most of the time it worked out. I mean, there have been times where like, you know, you do discover damage. It can be damaged and then wrapped, right? That does happen. But usually those vendors that are wrapping it are making sure that it's good and that it's clean and there's no damage and they're wrapping, because why bother to wrap a piece of glass that's damaged unless you're the new guy. But yeah, that can
I,
happen
I
to anybody.
I found, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Midwest fabricators, but they won't they won't do your glass if you're not doing the hardware with it. I mean, they'll shower glass, shower glass. They'll do other monolithics or IG, but they don't want to touch any of the glass if it's not just as the whole package, which I thought is an odd business model, but I guess they're all different.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a
We
great thing
had to
about being in business for yourself is you can have your own rules, right?
Yep.
we had to fight with them to get them to do glass only. They definitely wanted to do the whole package, and it's like glass only or nothing. We're done
But
with
you don't
this.
get but you don't get it from them anymore.
Anymore, no, but when we were going through that process and they kept giving us bad hardware, it's like okay, we're buying our own. It's just not it we're not doing this anymore. So they couldn't
Yeah.
argue at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely want to get the better margin. They want to sell you their own brand of hardware too. With a lot of manufacturers, we had to specify we want CRL hardware. We don't want whatever cheap thing you guys are bringing in
Yeah.
to go with your package. Yeah, some of it was really bad.
Well, and that's part of the hard part about using different fabricators is everyone wants to use different hardware and different. They're all going to have different gaskets and different sizes, and that part's definitely frustrating.
Yeah. That's probably part of the criteria then, I guess, if you were looking for a fabricator, is whether or not you could get CRL or you could specify hardware or go with no hardware. It'd be a nice
Mm-hmm.
thing. People allow it.
Yeah, we buy all our own hardware. We don't get it from the fabricator.
We do too now.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
One thing that I
oh, go ahead.
use you first, sir.
Oh, I was just gonna say I can't remember ever having a glass fabricator that like insisted on providing the hardware too.
No, they don't.
I mean, that would be a red flag for me for sure.
Ours tried. HMI tried out of Livermore.
Yeah, I mean
Tried.
they
Kind of
push
pushed
their
them.
hardware. GlassFab
Yeah.
has hardware now too. So
Yeah.
like they push their hardware, but they're not like demanding or anything. I mean, but yeah, they're trying to sell,
No, and they
which
don't
I
have everything anyway.
no, they don't.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm trying
And he came from Sierra Lawrence, that guy.
yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Guy who's running their hardware program.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say that I hate, but I guess it's just part of the game, is having to fight for better pricing from your vendor that you've had relationships with for a long time. It's like all of a sudden things are cheaper or they can be cheaper. You know, it's like why now can we get a better price? You know, like we're not doing much more volume. Or like why do we have to ask for better pricing? You know, like all of a sudden somebody got competitive. It's like can't you? It's like what I want with my insurance company. You know, I just want the best price you can possibly give. You know, like so consistency on pricing. You know, and then I get the when you're quoting individual jobs that are like a lot, you know, they're just thousands of square feet or something like that when you're doing one-offs and getting special pricing. But like, I just want your best pricing is what I want from a vendor, you know, like, and I don't want to have to fight for it, but I guess that's part of the game. I don't know.
Yep.
Back when we were buying from generally one main vendor, I would send them quarterly reports on how much I bought from them in the last quarter, just so they could kind of keep it front and center as we were buying more and more.
Nice. Yeah. Just a kind of a subtle nudge. I'm like, oh yeah,
Are you
by the
saying
way.
something, Maz?
Yeah, I said you're a fabricator, correct?
We
So
didn't want to hear from you anyway, Maz. Isn't that how that
no,
goes?
nobody wants to hear me run my jaws. But I'm
Trademarks.
just curious, as a fabricator, um, setting prices. Obviously, if you bought it out, that's one price. There's definitely a margin, I think, in your favor, correct? Do you kind of try to land somewhere in the middle, or can you outprice all your competitors that are buying it from a wholesaler? I'm just kind of curious. Does that make you I guess, the preferred choice from a price competitive standpoint? No.
We only make for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not
So the
selling to anybody else. They're just making their own glass.
Yeah.
So that doesn't that put you at a price advantage right out of the gate?
not necessarily
I don't know
because
what
we
your
don't
costs
make all
are.
that much. We don't have the quantity
Oh,
that they do.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to tell because you're not necessarily it's really hard to say what's that transfer price internally
Yeah.
when everything's all working together. But yeah, there's a margin for us in production, but for me, when we started doing it, I didn't care if it cost the same thing as to buy it. I just wanted to be able to control lead time and quality.
Do you find, I'm sure I know you're a CPA, or you were a CPA, or are a CPA, but do you track the amount of time you have in quality control and fine tuning that process and keeping it, I guess, humming so it doesn't veer off to have seeds or scratches and things like that?
Mhm. Well, we have quality control at each of the stations. Everybody has to sign off. Not that they're all perfect, of course, but we're always looking at when there was a problem, where should it have been found, and was there a sign off, and then a little bit of retraining. So if something gets through the whole process and um, it was polished strong to begin with, or it ran through the polisher too many times, so it ended up being undersized. then we're looking at that person who signed off that it was the right size before it went to the next process. And we're looking at the next process who's supposed to measure it before it goes, through that next process. So QC is throughout.
Mhm.
My vendors claim that they have QC, and I mean, I understand they're pumping a lot of glass through, but I mean, some of the stuff that we receive with, like Brad was saying earlier, those we call them seeds, or little bubbles in the glass, or big white scratches. How in the was Stevie Wonder the one looking at the glass coming through? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
One of
That's
the
a
things,
frustrating thing for me.
You better be
yeah.
careful. He's probably watching this.
That's right. He's a big fan, actually, of shower doors.
Good one, Daniel.
Yeah, back when we first started our plant, we were complaining and complaining and complaining to our main fabricator. And then when he caught wind, of course, everybody knows everything in the glass industry. So when he figured out that we were buying equipment, when we placed our purchase order on our furnace, he found out and he called up and he's like, "I hear you're doing this." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "So tell me, were we really that bad?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am creating an entire fabrication plant because you were that bad. I don't want to do this. This is a big old pain in the butt." And then he tried to say as nicely as possible, "Well, if everybody screws up glass, then what makes you think that you'll be any better?" Again, he tried to say it really nicely, and it was a good question. And, I basically said, first off, we're only going to make glass the way that we want to make glass. So we'll have our standard cutoffs, we'll have cutouts, we'll have our standard, everything how we want to do it. A lot of it is like, oh, this guy wants it this way, this guy wants it this way, so we'll have that. It's only ours.
Mhm.
And then, second, when something happens, it's a big difference when one of our installers comes back and says, "This glass was screwed up." And
Mhm.
they're like looking at the guy who did it.
Yeah.
And the guy who did it is looking at them. When we have a problem, when we had a problem with the fabricator, it was like, "Hey, sometime within the last 3 days, someone on one of the shifts screwed up." It's just really hard to get anywhere. But when you're, right there going, and you got the board, we got the board, how many days have we've gone in a row without any problems in this department and this department and this department? And when the installer comes back and production wipes back down to zero, yeah, you just pay a lot more attention, I think.
Mm.
What do you think, Elabon? Did he leave?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh.
Sorry, I was trying to put one of the kids to sleep. But sorry, what was the main question?
So how come when we're fabricating for ourselves, we can do a better job than when other people are fabricating for other people?
Gotcha. Well, we're putting all of our heart and mind, like this is our bread and butter. So if we screw up, we're not only like we're fabricating for ourselves, so there's no other option. So we have to succeed. Otherwise, everything else falls apart. So we care about the small scratch, we care about the small chip, we care about everything because we know that it's not only gonna cost us the glass that is made wrong, it's gonna cost us the installers are on their way there. They're not gonna finish the projects, and then it goes all over again. So we are more conscientious of exactly what is needed, and we're going to make sure that every single step of the way is done correctly so that at the end of the day we have a successful installation. And then that is just going to help us because our customers are going to be very happy. They're going to write really good reviews about us. If we do make a mistake, we can go the next day and actually fix it. We're not going to have to be waiting until whenever they decide to make it right. I think our record was 8 times the same single door made wrong. And you wonder how is it that a company can survive making one single door with two Geneva cutouts and two holes wrong 8 times. I mean, there's something wrong, right? So that's same thing, what everybody's talking about. We have to make sure that it goes well. The reason why I was asking if you guys will buy from me is because I think if there is a company in your area that fabricates, that installs and fabricates on their own, you could have an ally with them because they know what it feels like. They know that you're not just another number. You are kind of, that's how we started, by trying to fix mistakes. So that may be a good opportunity for those that may see companies like us maybe as a competitor. Is more like an ally. That's what I think.
I think that's a very good thing. It's working for me, and like I have direct access with the owner's son, and that's my person that I go to on this at this other company, So it's you have direct access to people who actually care when it is small like that. And then yes, they know about the installation side of it too, because that's where they started. I have a question kind of geared towards Shannon and Alibon. When you guys started the fabrication side of your businesses, do you guys treat that as a separate source of revenue within the business, or eventually did you transition into like it being a source of revenue within the business, so it's generating money for that portion of it? And did you separate it, like Bill and them? They obviously have their own company for their production stuff. Do you guys separate that in how, like, as a different company structured wise, or do you keep it all under the same umbrella, just making sure that it's producing revenue for itself though as a whole?
Yeah, we didn't separate it as different companies. It's all within the same company, and we just use general ledger account codes. So, when we're buying materials, when we're paying employees, when we're, whatever we're doing for fabrication, that's different than install, that's different than the office. However, everyone, shares the same office. So I have to do kind of a fake allocation. Everyone shares the same shop. Who's storing the inventory? Is fabrication storing inventory, or is install storing inventory? So it gets a little wishy-washy.
And actually, so fabrication is really a liability, right? It's not a profit center for you.
Oh, yeah, it makes money. It just
Does
doesn't.
it?
So, so
Yeah.
Shannon, when you fabricate, you don't sell to the shower door side then?
No,
No.
So it's an operating expense, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And
it's an
so,
asset. It's an asset though, because I could imagine your OpEx went up significantly, but your asset value went up too.
Yeah, you got all the equipment value and inventory and all of that are all assets on the balance sheet.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
so also when you fabricate, what are your tolerances? Do you hold, I mean, a big company runs it too, as long as it has a flat polish, it's done. Do you get it down to the right size, or you're plus or minus a 16th on your,
Well, yeah, we tend to be plus or minus a 16th.
yeah.
One of the things that's really nice about doing our own fabrication and knowing what the shower is that we can go in and we can say, hey, this one's a little small.
Yeah,
Um, is that okay? And we can say, well, it's going in channel, you're fine.
yeah,
Or we can say, where's the door that goes with this? Because let's just make sure that we don't have the panel small and the door small, because
right.
that's where you get
So
into
you can
trouble.
control that part.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we can do things like um, we always put it on the table to go into the furnace the same exact way. We
yeah,
go outside up, bottom down, and when you run everything the same way, then if you have bows, your bows are going the same direction.
same way.
Because if you guys have probably had that situation where you
Oh,
got
yeah,
a slight bow, no big deal, but you have a slight bow going two different directions, and now you're magnifying it in the middle. So we do some things like that just to make sure that, it's just some of the little stuff
so how
that
big is your furnace?
we're only 58 by 120.
Yeah,
So bigger than that, we have to send out to
no,
a friend. We have several fabricator friends. So still nice to keep those relationships. Like when when we're talking about installer fabricator competition, we have potentially fabricator to fabricator competition. People don't necessarily mind as much working with us because we don't sell to other people. So they feel a little bit better about that. But definitely nice to have people who will still help you out. And we help them out too. We had a big fabricator that their furnace went out, and we helped them to they would fabricate, and we helped them to run, and they actually sent over a couple of operators to operate the furnace themselves. We kind of rented our furnace to them. So great to have friends, camaraderie, like Daniel said.
I have a good story. It has to do with shower doors, but we ordered 1/2 inch tempered laminate, solar band 60 with Sentry glass interlayer for a house down in Big Sur. There was a lot of big units came in. And it showed up in the truck, and I looked at it. They didn't, if you know anything about solar band 60, you have to deburr the edge. They didn't deburr the edge on the whole order.
Wow.
And you talk about, oops.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't even take it off the truck.
Expensive, man.
Yeah.
Ugh. Bummer. Yeah. Well, working together is what this group's all about, I mean, that's what it's built on, is the idea that like we're not really working against each other, right? We're working in the same industry. We have a lot in common. We have a lot that we can share, and um it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? To team up with other people in the industry. So yeah, I've never had a problem with the idea of like we have wardrobe and bath specialties. Tim knows these
Yeah.
in Modesto. And there was some scuttlebutt, because they had a division that installed and then a division that fabricated, right? Mostly like kind of stick stall showers, semi-frameless stuff. And some people really they didn't want to do business with them because they saw them as competition. That's like I never look at it that way, It's like either someone's good source of
Yeah, but that Don's Mobile Glass. They did a lot of commercial stuff.
yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, I mean,
They,
can
they run a truck to what? LA, Arizona.
yeah, those guys could cover a lot of territory.
They do, yeah.
We're far from, I think Modesto's like,
Yeah,
I don't know, a
about
few
2 hours.
hours away, right?
About 2.5 hours probably.
Yeah, man. And they got an interesting business model. They deliver in the middle of the night. They
Yeah,
deliver overnight.
yeah.
They're out on the road when
Every other day they deliver.
yeah, when nobody else is. Pretty interesting.
And the truck looks like a beer truck, with the roll-up doors.
Does it? I've never seen it.
Yeah, big semi, yeah.
Yeah. I'm asleep. I'm asleep when they're delivering. Try to be.
Oh, I was gonna ask Elivon if he did any same day fixes, because that's my favorite, is when we're going out to install and there's something wrong, and then they call into the shop and say, "Hey, listen, we need this remade. Here's the new information," and then they come back and pick it up and install it. Woohoo.
Yes, that is one of the perks.
Yeah, I mean, just ever like run something through polisher just one more time. Just take that, get a 32nd of an inch or 16th of an inch.
I do a lot of grinding on hinge cutouts.
Yeah,
Hand sander and,
sure.
you know,
Yeah, we can make the whole thing though if we have to.
Yeah,
you
right.
have to know what you can do with 3/8 glass,
Right.
what you can do with 1/2 inch glass, and anything under that, you touch it, it'll blow up.
That's true.
Chris, you were mentioning the camaraderie of the group and stuff like that. I wanted to give a, in the public forum, a thank you to Connor. I spoke to him personally, but there was somebody that reached out to him that was out of his area, so he referred them to us, and I got an appointment set up for Friday and whatnot, but taking care of them. somebody that reached out to him and he referred him to me, but all because of the group, you know. So I
Yeah.
personally thanked him already, but on a public notice, shout out to him for sticking to the group and, you know, taking care of the people in here. So that was cool. It works.
That is cool. I saw his post on LinkedIn. He mentioned
Yeah.
you on there. You know, I think, man, that's
Mm.
awesome. Man. I love to see that. Right on. Well, hey, I think we did pretty good here.
That's pretty good.
Did we miss anything?
I don't know.
Okay.
Just
Just
was gonna
work.
say just the Dodmans, the fabricators,
Yeah, right.
the heck were
They're
they
busy
at?
with baseball.
Yeah, baseball.
Baseball. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
Bill's out there throwing the ball at the end of breaks. He did better than Keith did, that's for sure.
Those guys don't let any grass grow under their feet. That's for
No,
sure.
they don't.
They're not here. They're doing something.
Yeah.
Trust me. All right, everybody. Well, hey, have a great rest of your week. I
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday.